Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our ANH Technical Workshop number 11. We have four interesting talks this morning. We have the first one, Llanos hydrocarbon opportunities in the foreland area, Llanos 98, Core 68, that is the Huron area. Also, we have the seismic interpretation in areas reserved by the ANH in the lower MAC, the Perdices program. And we have also the Sinú San Jacinto hydrocarbon opportunities, Flores Santo, Haraway areas. And we have a special speaker today from Searcher. She's going to speak about the improved seismic images within the Sinú San Jacinto and Lower Magdalena basins, part of a new multi-client program by Searcher in Colombia. Okay, don't forget that we are all today finishing our program in April, and we have already our schedule for May, and we will have next week Ion here with us talking about the offshore Colombian highlights and prospectivity margin segment using newly reprocessed 2D seismic data. On May 13, we are going to have the Colombian Geological Survey with the talk titled Thermal History of Exhumation of the Garzón Massif and the Evolution of the Caguán Putumayo Basin. On May 20th, we will have as well, again, in the Colombian Geological Survey, talking about the Colombian Caribbean Play Fairways. And at the last Friday of May 27, we will have the agency again. Remember that the agency is presenting the last Friday of each month, and we will have the pleasure to talk to you about seismic interpretation in areas reserved by the ANH, Repelón area, Putumayo Basin, hydrocarbon opportunities, Las Águilas, in the Llanos Basin, hydrocarbon opportunities, El Miedo case. And don't forget as well that we are in the program with the gas transition fuel in Colombia, and we have interesting talks on gas. May 6th, Ion, as I already mentioned it. May 20th with the Colombian Geological Survey. June 3rd, we will have MinCiencias here talking about the LPG assistance in Colombia and places to find it. And Llanos, in July 8th, we will have as well the ANH talking about the Gian gas potential in Cretaceous rocks in the Eastern Cordillera of Colombia. Don't forget that you can address all our presentation of given in this time on 2021 and 2022. Those are the specific address. So don't hesitate to contact me if you need more details about this address. So you can access any of those presentation recordings. You can download those or any information. You can also request workshops with us, data rooms with us. The team here is ready to attend any request from your end. And here you see, this is the kind of the screen that you find in our website when you address any of those web address. So far in 2022, the agency has promoted around 21 areas. This is the map. In yellow, you see the areas where we have been already divulging the divulgation of knowledge. So for the people that join us today first time, don't forget that we have opportunities for gas in the north part of Colombia. We have opportunities for condensate that you are going to see today here in the foreland of the Llanos. We have also light oil in the middle MAC that we can illustrate to you anytime. And also we have an interesting heavy oil prospect here in the southern part of the Llanos Basin. So don't hesitate to contact us or see the data that we have in our website. Today we have from the ANH, it's a pleasure to present our speakers, Lina Serna, geologist graduated from the Universidad de Caldas in 2023 with a master's degree in geophysical science from the National University of Colombia in 2008, with more than 15 years of experience working in companies such as Hocol in the exploration team and in the ANH during the last 4 years. Arles Gutierrez, as well, geologist graduated from the National University of Colombia in 2006 with 12 years of experience in the industry. He has worked for Gran Tierra Energy, Emerald Energy, and in the last 4 years with the ANH. And we have also Daniel Rodriguez, well known by all of you, geologist from the National University, graduated in 2017 and Master Science in Exploration Geophysics from the University of Leeds, graduated in 2018. More than 4 years of experience in the oil and gas industry in companies such as Oxy, and currently he is working in the ANH. And we have the pleasure, as I say at the beginning of the talk, of having here with us Karina Rodriguez. Karina is an Oxford University graduated petroleum geoscience with more than 30 years of multidisciplinary technical experience in global exploration in client projects. She possesses diverse experience from her time at Pemex, BG, and other major oil companies, where she often worked close with high-level management to develop their strategic portfolios. She currently works at Searcher as part of the high-performing team dedicated and identify, pursuing, and realizing new ventures to support efforts in optimized exploration for oil and gas in mature and frontier basins around the globe. Okay, welcome everybody to our technical workshop today.
Thank you, Miguel. Good morning to everybody. On this occasion, I am going to present the preliminary evaluation of the Llanos 98 and Core 68 blocks in the Llanos Basin developed by the INH. This is the agenda of the presentation. I start with the location, next the infrastructure, database, and regional geological framework. I start with the Llanos 98. I'll show generalities, production, correlation of wells, structural maps, and volumetrics of Curiara oil fields, and prospectivity of the Llanos 98. Next, I talk about Core 68, when is a Huron oil field in the Melia structure. I show generalities, correlation of wells, structural maps, production, and volumetrics. And I finish with some conclusion and recommendations. I start with location. Both of blocks are in the Casanare department, very close to the Yopal city. Core 68 is near to Piemonte blocks, and Llanos 98 is between Foothills oil blocks and Casanare Association. In the structures of the area, focusing on the facilities of the Foothills blocks, and in addition of the proximity of the Yopal city. The regional framework. On the left, we find the structural domain map, and on the right, the Wheeler regional stratigraphic diagram. I start with the Llanos 98 blocks, which are characterized by the normal, antithetical, and synthetical faults. On the other hand, Core 68 is in the Foothills domain, characterized by the truss structures. Stratigraphically, the two blocks have the completed sequence from Carbonera, Mirador, Cuervos, Barcos, and the Cretaceous section of Guadalupe, Gacheta, and Une. The main reservoir is Mirador, and the secondary reservoir are the sandy levels of Gacheta. In the database of Llanos 98, 4 wells have been drilled. In the 2D seismic, there are 179 lines in 34 seismic programs with a linear coverage of 916 kilometers. For 3D seismic, there are 9 programs with a coverage of 324 square kilometers. In the Core 68 database, 11 wells have been drilled. In 2D seismic, there are 52 lines in 15 seismic programs with a linear coverage of 246 kilometers. For 3D seismic, there are 6 programs with a coverage of 200 square kilometers. I start with the Llanos 98 blocks. The Curiara exploration well was drilled in 2013 in the former Deporton block. Initial tests as mirror results in 408 barrels oil per day of 43 degrees API and 1.9 million cubic feet of gas. In 2014, the operator carried out the extensive tests and managed on the recovery of 64,000 barrels of, but between the March and September, the water cut goes from less than 1% of 85%. And in September, the well is closed for being economical and viable. In this slide, I show the left the seismic section and deep where the trend is observed, which is the anticline against the normal synthetic fault. On the right, the structural map in the top of mirror is post-drill version. This is the closure of the Curiara. In the southwest and northeast correlation, the discovered wells on La Casona, Curiara, and the Morichal are shown. From the Curiara well, is observed that the test section on the lower part of Gacheta and the Morichal well, although the test areas are not marked, the green shape in the resistivity track show the Mirador and Gacheta target levels. This is the test of Curiara 1. In this slide, show the result on the initial test. By natural flow, the flow was the 822 and 3.8 million of cubic feet of gas with a water cut of 0.5 and 6%. In the prospectivity section of the block, we have a structure very similar to Curiara, which is characterized by antiform with a three-way closure against the synthetic normal fault. There are two structural closures, that of Curiara with an area on 526 acres and the new structure with almost 4,000 acres in the spill point. The calculation was made with the information of Curiara. The results on 1.91 million recoverable barrels in high estimate of the structures in the Curiara well and 2.56 million recovered barrels in high estimate for the structure called Northwest Curiara. If we also take on the Gacheta sands, these figures will be semi-similar. Now we move on the core 68 block with the Huron structure. The Huron 1 well was drilled in 2008 and the Huron 2 and the 3 in the 2012, but until 2017, they could not be tested due on the lack of the full flow line and the linking test wells with the facilities of Florenia. In 2016, the highest scale that was called Playero was drilled, but negative results. The wells Huron 1 and Huron 2 were interpreted on different structures because the different pressures between the two. Thus, defining the Huron and the Orso structures. With the Huron field, the operator calculate an original oil in place volume almost on the 100 million barrels and oil and 870 cubic feet of gas. Billions of cubic feet of gas. In this slide, you can observe the structural complexity of the area. There you can see a system of faults in back thrusts In the figure of the left, we can see the deep structure of the Huron, and the right deep section of the Orso structure. This is the structure of Huron, and this is the structure and the Orso. In this structural correlation, the different producer levels is observed, which as the Mirador B and Mirador B and Mirador X, and also the contact level of gas, water, hydrocarbon water, and the lowest water, hydrocarbon water contact, and highest gas contact. In the petrophysical evaluation, the most important thing is the characteristic of the porosity and permeability of the Mirador, which oscillate in the porosity between 1.6 and 3.8%, and the permeability between 0.02 and 0.09 millidarcies. In the image of the left is the structural map in depth of the Mirador level. For the two structurals, on the north is the Orso, on the south is Huron. The total accumulative production of the two structures is the 1,073,498 barrels of oil and 67,540 of water and 12.4 gigacubic feet of gas. The resources calculated by the operator were 100 million barrels of original oil in place and 868 gigacubic feet of gas. In the 2018, the operator calculated a recovery factor of 2.3%. The Huron hydrocarbon is well as near fields of the Floreña-Pauto complex and light oil of the 44 degrees API. This is the conclusions. The Llanos 98 blocks are drilled of four wells, which only Curiara 1 was oil producer with a cumulative production of 64,000 barrels of oil and 40 degrees API gravity, and the 358 mega cubic feet of gas in extensive testing. The structural observed in the Llanos 98 block corresponding anticlines against normal synthetic fault. The mainly reservoir in the area is the upper part of the Mirador formation, although I may have potential on the sandstone of the Gacheta formation, as observed in the oil fields of the Casanare Association. Volumes well calculated for the two structures in high estimate sum of 11.4 million of barrels and original oil in place and recovery factor of 40% observed in the Curiara well. The depth of the reservoirs in 16,000 feet for Mirador and 16,800 for Gacheta in TBD. The core 68 blocks has drilled 11 wells. Two of these producers which constitutive and the Huron field. Initial production was closed on 3,100 barrels of oil per day, dropping on 1,200 barrels of oil per day in 18 months. The Huron field is made of the compartments of the backdoor fault system, very similar to the Pauto Floreña fields. The two producing wells, Huron 1 sidetrack and Huron 2 sidetrack 3, tested with different compartments of the same field. This was demonstrated by difference in pressures. The depth of the Mirador reservoir is between 15,300 feet and 17,000 feet. The porosity of the mirador for the field range between 3.4% and 3.6%. The operator estimates that the fields as 100 million barrels on original oil in place and 868 giga cubic fields and original gas in place with a calculated bar recovery factor on 2.3%. Finally, these are the Llanos 98 and Core 68 blocks will be available for nomination in the next updates of the land map. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alex. And as Miguel presented, our next presentation is the one from Lina Serna.
Good morning. Daniel, do you see my screen? Yes?
Not yet.
No?
1 minute.
No?
No, we do, Lina. Yeah, perfect.
Gloria, no.
Yes, we do now.
No yet?
Sí, Lina, se ve.
Good morning. Sorry for this presentation corresponds to the description of the acquisition, processing, and interpretation stages of the participants to the seismic program. Acquired by the ANH in 2018 and located in the northwestern sector of the Lower Magdalena Valley Basin. In the area reserved by the ANH, called Beam 38. The content of this presentation includes an introduction. The main infrastructure near the area where the Participants West seismic program was acquired, the geological framework of the basin, the database of Beam 38 area, general information about the Participants West seismic program, seismic interpretation, prospectivity, and conclusions. As part of the introduction, the ANH has acquired different 2D seismic programs from 2015 to the recent year. These seismic programs correspond to one located in the Sino San Jacinto Basin, where the Refelon 2D program is located. 6 in the Lower Magdalena Valley Basin, Perdices West, Arjona, Nueva Granada, Bosconia Norte, Chimichagua, and Pailitas, where 2 of these programs, Chinchagua and Pailitas, reached the Cesar Rancheria and Miro and Magdalena Valley base. And the other seismic program that the ANH acquired was Las Mercedes, that this program was acquired in the Catatumbo Basin. The seismic program, Perdices West, is located in the northwest part of the lower MAC and has a total length of 295 kilometers distributed in 9 seismic lines. The Perdices West is located in the northwest of the basin with the area reserved by the ANH called B38 in the new land map for March 2022. This seismic program was acquired in 2018 in the Department of Magdalena, and the seismic lines are located to the south of this block in the municipalities of Pibijay, Chibolo, Sabanas de San Ángel, and Plata. The area of B38, this area, corresponds to 96,841 hectares and comprises the municipalities of Pibijay, El Piñón, Zapayán, Chibolo, Sabanas de San Ángel, Tenerife, and Plata. The closest oil infrastructure is the gas pipeline network of La Costa Atlántica, located to the east and west of the B38 block. This block is crossed by the gas pipeline LDPC Barranquilla, and where it is connected to LDPC station. And to the east of this block is the pipeline Pozos Colorados Ayacucho Calán. The geological setting and stratigraphic chart about this area corresponds. This study area is located in the northwestern part of the basin. It is limited, the lower Magdalena Valley is limited to the west and northwest by San Jacinto Fault Belt, and to the south and southeast by the Central Cordillera and Serranía de San Lucas, to the eastern limit in the northern portion of the Bucaramanga Fault System and Bucaramanga-Santa Marta Fault System, that is the limit between the lower MAC and Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta and Cesar Rancheria Basin. This basin is considered mature oil and gas prone, that was filled from Oligocene to recent, mostly of clastics with some carbonates, which were deposited in a flat subduction for our septins. In the lower MAC has been found hydrocarbons both in clastic facies as Ciénaga de Oro, lower Ciénaga de Oro and upper Ciénaga de Oro, and the different levels of Porquero and Tubarán. As in carbonate facies of the Ciénaga de Oro unit, that the age corresponds to lower Miocene or difícil limestones or difícil high. The main hydrocarbon source is found within Oligocene to lower Miocene, but in recent studies given by Universidad de Caldas for the ANH, proposed that it's possible in Eocene septin system. the source rocks. This is the map of the anomaly acquired by Servicio Geológico and INH of 2021 that shows morphological features as basement structures that allowed the tectonic segmentation of the basin with the formation of two depocenters located to the north, the Plateau Depocenter, and to the south, San Jorge Depocenter, separated by the Magangues High. The basement depth of the Plateau Depocenter is greater than 7,000 meters, and to the north of this depocenter is located the B38 block. The basement of the San Jorge Depocenter reached a depth of 5,000 meters. Other morphological features are the positive anomalies, such as the San Jacinto fault belt, located to the west of the Lower Magdalena Basin. And these other morphological features as to the east of the Plateau Depocenter is el difícil high that is in trend with the Arjona and Brillante structure. In this map is more noticeable this height, that it corresponds to the difícil height, and it extends to the north in the area of San Angel Walls, and it is in trend with the Chimichagua platform. This map corresponds to the structural map of the basement obtained from the seismic interpretation by Alejandro Moran in 2018, where is most noticeable different morphological and structural elements, such as in this case, when this area, the Apure height that is controlled by the faults, the two different faults, and this corresponds to the PV high fault, that is the PV high. This slide corresponds to a composite section with the direction northwest to the south, northwest to south, taken from the study by the Universidad de Caldas in 2020, interpreted from north to the south, and is located the main depocenters of the plateau subbasin. It shows the stratigraphic relationships, thicknesses, and preservation of the Oligocene to maybe Pliocene sequences, where in the central part, where is located the well Tupale-1, and in this part is located the block, the B38 block. This included different structural features, and this is thickness in this part, and it's deeper the plateau's basin. And to the south, are located the Granate and Plateau walls, and the plateau reached a depth of more than 20,000 feet, and by Foran's study, it found that from age Eocene. And in the part is Pequeño, the Pequeño well, where the Ciénaga de Oro and Miocene units are controlled by the configuration basin. The Beam Basin is considered a major basin, and the block is surrounded, the Beam Period block is surrounded by several oil and gas fields. This block is near to the new discovery given by Barrett with La Belleza 1, located in the Beam 1 block, which tested 2,696 barrels of oil per day or 43 API degrees and 11.8 million of cubic feet of gas per day. Another field near to Beam 38 is El Difícil that produce light oil and gas condensate from limestones of Ciénaga de Oro formation. And to the east is San Angel, and to the north of El Difícil is San Angel. It was a discovery from 1944. And another recent discovery was Pollerengue, that is located in San Jacinto Folbel and produces gas and light oil from chain deformation and porquero. In the database, the Beam 38 area has 12 2D seismic programs with statewide available, with a total length of 1,447 kilometers, and the length into the area, the study area corresponds to 551 kilometers. These surveys have been acquired since the 70s, San Jorge Magdalena 76, and the most recent program is Perdices West, acquired in 2018 by Petro Seismic. The Beam 38 block only has one well, that was Tupale 1. This well was drilled by Ecopetrol in 2010, and it was or it reached a depth of more than 15,000 feet. 10 exploratory wells have been drilled, and the another wells in this part are Caraballo, Piñuela, Pibijay, Danta, Bálsamo, 1, 2, Guamo, and this is the La Belleza 1, Apur, and the Pure wells, and this is another to the east of the block is Champeta 1. This corresponds to some characteristic of each well. As a resume of Tupale well, this well, the Ecopetrol drilled in 2009, and it reached a depth of 15,000 feet. The structure was a closure in the honeycomb against a normal fault, and the target was sands of Ciénaga de Oro and Porquero formation as a secondary object. The status of this well was closed and abandoned. The reservoir found was considered the presence of finely laminated clastic deposits of sandstones and clays, and later of studies suggested, Ecopetrol suggested that is in an intermediate position of the flag of the channel EV system. These reservoirs have low resistivities, and it was considered a tight sand. The chromatograph, or the readings of the chromatograph, detected concentration from methane gas to normal pentane. There were also detectors for carbon CO2. The mud wave in Porquero Formation is a range of 13.8 to 14.3 ppg, and suggested the presence of no overpressure zone with high gas problems that force the mud wave up to more than 14 ppgs. Different levels of Porquero Formation and Ciénaga de Oro Formation showed main overpressures, and the weight of the mud was increased constantly. However, the biggest drawback was related to the well control and the presence of very high gas readings. In Ciénaga de Oro Formation, this interval is considered that the formation presents abnormal pressures that were the ones that produce a lack of control of the well. In the acquisition parameters in Perdices West, consisted of 9 seismic lines, where 8 of them are deep lines, and 1 is a straight line. The survey was acquired in 2018 by Petroseismic Services with these acquisition parameters. Record tools Innova G3 HD with sample rate of 2 milliseconds and record length of 8 seconds. The source use was seismic head with charge of 2 kilograms, and the whole depth was of 10 meters with an interval of 50 meters. The project was with 600 channels. 1 single sensor geophones were used in the sub-program for all lines. The number of shot points was 5,917, and the receiver station was 11,803. This survey was processed by Divesco, where the deliverables were PSTN versions for each line. This is the processing sequence given by Divesco, where they start by the geometric QCM first picking an amplitude recovery and surface consistent amplitude, noise attenuation, spiking the convolution, anomalies amplitude attenuation, and surface consistent correction. Velocity analysis with tomograph statics applied, residual reflection statics, and analysis of dense velocity with residual reflection statics. And this, or the result was a Kirchhoff PSTA. Later, these steps. And these are two examples. These are deep line corresponding to the line 3, and it is a straight line corresponds to this line, and it is the image acquired by the processing by Divesco. As in seismic interpretation, this slide corresponds to a composite section from west to the east, passing through the Tupale well. The well Tupale is located in that part, And the deposition of the Miocene has been controlled by normal faults, mainly in the upper Miocene, associated by normal faults by mainly the upper Miocene. And in this part, Ciénaga formation is controlled by the configuration of basement, and that part is the high. It corresponds to the limestones associated to San Angel and Edifici limestones, and in that part is controlled by structural normal faults that affecting the upper Miocene, the units of upper Miocene, for example, the upper Porquero. The seismic line corresponds to vertices 2, and the direction of this line is, that line, the south, the north, and that the lower level of Ciénaga de Oro formation is controlled by the basement configuration. And over the unconformity of middle Miocene, the transdensive structural regime corresponds to a series of normal faults that are affecting the upper Porquero. Or in some cases, there are high amplitudes in the middle, in the intra-upper Porquero. This is another straight line correspond to Platform Norte 2003, with direction north to south, and this polygon corresponds to the area beam 38, where the big fault corresponds to the fault that is controlled the Apure High that is located in the part, and different deposits of high amplitude is associated below the Ciénaga de Oro formation, where all sequences are below this unit, and the basement is deeper to the north, and that part is controlled by a sequence of normal faults. 7 lists were defined pre-associated to Ciénaga de Oro formation, to the upper Ciénaga de Oro formation, and this corresponds to the high estimated areas identified in this map. And the another list corresponds to the upper Porquero formation that is controlled by the faults with direction northwest southeast, northwest southeast. As conclusions, the beam 38 area has 12 seismic programs with a length of 551 kilometers. These surveys have been acquired since 1976, and the most recent program is Perdices West, acquired in 2018 by Petroseismic and processed by Divesco. The seismic program, Perdices West, is located in the northwest of Lower Magdalena Valley Basin in the Magdalena Department, within the area reserved by the NH, being 38 area. This survey corresponds to 266 kilometers of length, distributed in 9 seismic lines, 8 deep lines and 1 straight line. And this corresponds to source points and the receiver station. One exploratory well have been drilled in the beam 38 area, which is Tupale 1, drilled in 2009, and it had strong gas shows during the well, but the test results were saltwater in the Ciénaga de Oro formation. And it considered the reservoir it was tight sands and it overpressure zone. Different types of plays were identified associated with the stratigraphic plays to lower levels of Ciénaga de Oro formation, controlled by the basement configuration. Structural traps that involve the upper Porquero with amplitude anomalies and structural closures involve the upper Ciénaga de Oro formation. And high estimated areas have been calculated for 3 leads associated to upper Ciénaga de Oro formation and 4 leads for the infra-upper Porquero unit. Thank you to everyone for your attention.
Thank you, Lina. Thank you very much. Okay, so good morning to everyone. Today, I will give a brief reminder of the areas that are available for nomination into the southern part of the Sinú San Jacinto area. So that's the location of the 4 areas that are called SSGS 12, 13, 71, and 72. Both the 4 of them covering the Córdoba and Antioquia departments at the northwest of Colombia. That area had a huge history of exploration because we got 2 different fields. The first one, that is Flores Santo, that got its first well drilled in 1946. We got one of them with 28,730 barrels of very light oil, 51 degrees of API. And as well, we got Jaraguay Norte, that was a field that was mainly developed during the 80s. That the Jaraguay N1 showed 126 barrels of oil per day during the test of 48 degrees of API. So at the time, a successful production test in Adoro 13 wells, and those were considered as non-commercial. So we got as well 191 wells drilled in the whole basin. So to take a glance of the wells that have been drilled into the area, we got 40 different wells. Some of them are stratigraphic, others are related to the Flores Santo and Jaraguay fields. And we got 2 wells, recent wells, one drilled by the ANH as an stratigraphic wells, the ANH Tierra Alta. And as well another well drilled in 2018, known as Tonga 1. That's the seismic data available. We got 14 different seismic surveys. In terms of 2D seismic, the areas are quite well covered. However, most of them, the image are a challenge to the seismic processing companies. And I'm quite sure that the results presented by Karina in the next presentation will be quite good in terms of taking an advantage of the seismic that are available. So this is the infrastructure of the 4 main areas. We got an oil pipeline, that is the Terminal Coveñas, that is 137 kilometers apart. And as well, we got 4 different stations for gas pipelines into Montería, Jobo Tablón, and Cerro Matoso. Most of them are 69, 95, and 92 kilometers apart from the central part of the 4 areas. So talking about a brief reminder of the geological framework, we got fluvial facies of Tubara Formation that remains the same as the ones found in the lower Magdalena. We got deepest facies to the ones related to the Porquero Formation that will be found into the Flores Santo Formation, and sandstones of deeper facies to the ones related to Ciénaga de Oro that are known as Pavo sandstones into the Sinú San Jacinto Basin. A quick reminder that we thought that the main source into the area is Canzona Formation, that is maybe from a Cretaceous age. So the main structural traps that we thought that are dropping into these areas are related to an extensive and controlled by mud diapirs that could be explained based on salt diapers schemes due to the similarity. As you can see at surface, we got some ellipsoid structures that are related to the mud diapers into subsurface. We had asyntactonic sediments that could be identified because of the difference in thickness and are related to the main activity of the mud diapers. We got as well welt faults that could be an importance into traps because of the juxtaposition of different units and as well the presence of mud diaperism that are an excellent seal. And into the Sinus and Jacinto mud diapers have a strong relation with oil and gas seeps that are seen into the in surface. So that's are just quite facts that we got to bear in mind in order to understand what the good prospectivity that we have in here. So that's a summary. We have already talked about Floresanto, different 12 wells, sorry, that were drilled from 1945 to 1947. The one with the best response or the best test results are Floresanto 1 and Floresanto 10. Most of them drilled the Floresanto and Pajuil formations, and as well we have Floresanto 6 that produces 42 barrels in 12 hours during the test of a 50 degrees of API. That's basically a conceptual model that we got of Floresanto that's related to a huge mud diaper into there. And we know that the well is drilling one of the flanks of these syntactonic sediments related. That is Jaraguay Norte. It's an area located at the south of Sinu San Jacinto. Mainly, the rocks are Maralu Formation that is related to a lower CDO to the Pliocene, to the Corpa Formation. So total depths of the wells range from 2,500 and 5,000. And Jaraguay Norte, during production tests into the Floresanto Formation, produced 3.5 barrels of oil of API and obtained as well 6.3 barrels of 46 degrees of API into a shallower interval. And at the end, produced 126 barrels of oil per day. That's as well our schematic of the field based on the seismic interpretation. That's the results of Tonga 1 well that was drilled by Gran Tierra in 2018. The well drilled Eocene sandstones that are related to Chenge Formation that are units below the Miocene discordance. Despite finding the reservoir, the shores were not economically viable. And that was said to us, it's not all of the flanks are prospective, just one of them, one of the flanks usually is the one that is prospective. And we got Tierra Alta, that was a well drilled by the ANH in 2013 with a total depth of 8,711 feet. The main objective was to reach Canzona and San Cayetano Formation. There weren't no visible and significant manifestations of oil into the sandy levels, and the sediments that was found in the well do not match with the units reported in the literature. So we got a seismic interpretation, three different surf traps that could be found into the 4 areas that we are presented if you are interested for nomination. So that is the main one, that we got an anticline with normal faults by collapse. That is what is called a turtleback structure. So we can see that anticline that is highly related to the mud diaperism here, and some normal faults related to a collapse of the structure. Those ones, we got a possible thrusting that are below the possible Miocene unconformity that are clearly seen and are not related to the mud diapers, but can be clearly seen below that unconformity. And as well, we got the typical traps against the flanks of the mud diaperism of the syntactonic sediments as shown here into the conceptual model. So the recoverable prospective resources, we have found 13 leads in total with an estimated, brief estimated of original oil in place around 1,282 millions of barrels. If we apply a recovery factor of 50% and a chance of success, we will at the end have a best estimate of 96.18 million barrels. So as conclusions, the area, despite of being unexplored, has a very long history of exploration with wells from 1945, 7 wells and 3,101 kilometers of 2D seismic have been acquired in the areas. So we got Maralu, Canzona Formation as the main source rocks into the area, and Pavo, Floresanto, and Pajuil formations considered the reservoirs that are equivalent of Porquero and Ciénaga de Oro from the lower Magdalena Valley. Synclines and main structures in the area are dominated by the dynamic of mud diapirs, with a possible source at Oligocene sediments with an activity from into the Miocene. 2 fields have shown production, Floresanto and Jaraguay. Floresanto with a total of 28,730 barrels of 51 degrees of API, and Jaraguay Norte with 176 barrels of oil per day. The seismic imaging could be improved, maybe using wave-based migration, reverse time migration. Karina will show you straight away what the results of a seismic reprocessing, a huge results that have been obtained by them. So we got 3 different sort of traps identified. The main one, traps related to the flanks of the mud diapirs, anticlides with normal faults by collapse, and traps related to unconformities. Inside the areas offered by the ANH, 13 leads have been mapped with an estimate of prospective resources into the best estimate of 96.18 million of barrels. So thank you, and remind to all of you that now 4 different areas are available into the Sinú San Jacinto area for nomination. So now I would like to give the stage to Karina Rodriguez for the seismic reprocessing into the Sinú San Jacinto area. Thank you.
Thank you. I will get started straight away, and I hope you're seeing the beautiful picture of Cartagena. I think I just fell in love with that place. I had never been. The APGIs was held there last week. It was a great event. I think we all managed to meet each other in person finally and be there, and I just love this picture. So we're very happy to be working in Colombia, very happy to be working onshore. This is, for now, our main area of interest. We have been talking with the ANH, and I think the main message here is collaboration. You have seen from the presentations today that there is a lot of potential, that this is a very much unexplored frontier area, probably the most unexplored area, especially the Sinú San Jacinto, and that's just because of the way that it worked out, because you saw that there were some positive results, but of course, as soon as you start getting the more positive results in the Magdalena Valley, then all the attention shifted to the Magdalena Valley, and this all this were left behind. And you can see that the age of the wells drilled here is really very old. So most of the wells that produced hydrocarbons were actually drilled without seismic, which is very interesting in itself. But in 2015, the Bullaranga discovery, that proved gas in commercial quantities. That was drilled with modern seismic, with good imaging. I think that's exactly what you need in order to be able to identify the prospectivity that is left in this basin. But like I said, this is probably the least explored basin in the Colombian onshore, and it's got about 1/3 of the coverage per square kilometer of acreage compared to other basins. We need legacy data to be improved, and that's exactly what we set out to do with the agreement that we now have in place with the ANH. We set out to reprocess some data. We had a poster that was accepted at the APGIs, and we decided to go ahead and do some test reprocessing, and I think you will see from the results. I'm not going to go into the geology because that was brilliantly covered in all the previous presentations, but you can see here that we're going from these basins to the fault belts of the San Jacinto, and as we heard, the mud diapirs that have been interpreted in the Sinú basin. So let's get straight to it, the results. So we are very, very excited these are the reprocessing we carried out was actually to depth. So we obtained PSDM, but what you see here, so these are the zoom ins into, we reprocessed a couple of test lines, one actually going through the Flores Santo well, which was actually done on purpose because we believe that there is good prospectivity there, and we want to understand the structure and the relationship of the flanks and the trap. So we then converted the PSDM back to time so that we could compare the results to the previous processing. And if we just start off with the line on the left, you will see that in this area where the mud diapirs have been interpreted, there is actually very little imaging. There is actually, it's very difficult to image. And look what happens when we reprocess the data. You are actually seeing the events coming through, and almost, I would say, almost coming right through, almost telling us that maybe we have a little bit of a smaller diapir than we thought originally. Maybe these are just interpretations. Of course, that what we need to do, and this is something that we would like to do, and now that we are able to travel, I think we'll be able to do it more easily, is work very closely with all, with the experts at ANH, at the Servicio Geológico Colombiano. We want to work very closely so that we can interpret these results in the right way. But this is very interesting in itself, the fact that you can see these events pulling through. The unconformities are coming through more clearly. So if you focus on where the arrows are, we're seeing faults where we weren't really able to see faults before. And look at these events again in the deeper section. There was a lot of improvement. Now, the next one, the middle one, is one of my favorite ones, because where we really were not able to see anything in here, I mean, this was a blank area. Look at all the events that are now coming through. And of course, we'd be very happy for any of you who are interested to walk you through in detail what was done to achieve this. But it was mainly a very detailed velocity picking, a few tomographic updates, velocity scanning where we didn't have much signal. So there was a lot of detailed work that was carried out, but it pays off because this is the data that we have. This is the data that can reveal what is actually going on and can give us more of an insight into the prospectivity of this area. And look down here. I mean, down here we see this event and it doesn't look like an artifact. It almost looks like a flat spot. Like I said, I think in the deep section, in the areas with no signal, and in the deep section, we are getting this great reflectivity and events coming through. So this is what's so exciting. And that's what Daniel was referring to. We were very excited to see this. And the final one is even more exciting because there's a well that's going to be drilled right on this structure. So the structure is confirmed, which is great. And I'm sure it's a nice structure anyways, imaged well on the legacy data, but imaged even better on the reprocessed data. But I think if this well is successful, and it is expected that it will be gas, and then like it was shown, this gas could be connected straight to the Hobo pipeline. So this is what we call advantage hydrocarbons, a prospect that you drill, and if it's successful, it can be connected to facilities straight away. So this advantage hydrocarbons, what has come out, I think you will see here in the deep section, very, very clearly, this very nice structure down here in the deep section, which looks, doesn't mean that it has carbonates, but looks a bit like the Boquete structure, which is quite large. So I think the good news for the company drilling this well is that if they are successful, then they can look at maybe drilling this other prospect that has been revealed with the latest reprocessing. And I just want to leave you with a little bit of a question that has arisen from this reprocessing. I think you will agree that the events that we are now seeing and the improvement in the image from the velocity models is very clear. And therefore, what is the velocity telling us? Because of course, you know, we have been interpreting mud diapirs here in the Sinu, and you know, we are not saying that maybe they're not mud diapirs. Something very interesting has come out of this, the reprocessing, and I will show you in the next slide. Look at the velocities. We were actually expecting to see slower velocities here just because of the mud diapirism, but we are actually seeing high velocities. And it is these high velocities that are allowing us to recover some of the events here. So it's just something that has come out, and every one of those, what in our lines that we reprocessed, what appeared to be, or what we were expecting to be mud diapirs with a slow velocity, has actually come out with fast velocity. So it's just something that we just need to think about, review, because as Daniel showed, the relationships between salt diapirism and mud diapirism can be quite similar, though it really is mostly salt that behaves more like a diapir. Sometimes shale diapir or shales in the area can behave a bit more diffusely. They can just be injected into the beds. But anyways, this is very interesting. If they are mud diapirs, for some reason they are fast mud diapirs. Have they been compacted? Are they overpressure? I don't know. So the question is there. I think this is something really interesting that will help us to understand the basin better. And when we do more reprocessing, and as we continue with our reprocessing, because that's what we plan to do, our phase one, like I said, in collaboration with ANH, with the Servicio Geológico Colombiano, we'll be working closely and selecting the lines that we can reprocess in this area, some key lines, and as many lines as possible to reprocess in the Sinú, San Jacinto, and Lower Magdalena Valley Basin. And then hopefully this enhancement in imaging, this improvement in the imaging will allow us to understand the basins better, to understand which structures to target, and to have more success in future exploration here. And that's what I had to show you. Very exciting. I will be sharing hopefully more results as we get them coming in. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. I'm quite sure the forward plan will be quite successful at the end. So thank you to all of the attendees of today. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Dina, for these very valuable presentations. And see you next week to all of the attendees. And thank you again. Have a nice week.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Bye.